for stopping by. It's been a couple of days, and election is behind us. And to, I think, the surprise of many, there was no red wave. The Republicans taking control of the House, and there's still a shot at the Senate. I think it's hilarious that Walker and Warnock are going to have a runoff. And I just love the fact that the nation's attention is going to be focused on that race in December. What a great thing to talk about. Christmas time, over Thanksgiving dinner. I love that there's going to be a runoff in that race. That's just perfect. But it's interesting. The no red wave. And why was that? Well, I'll give you my take on it, and then I got a couple articles I want to go over with you really quick. I'm going to try and keep this video a little shorter than normal. The reason there was no red wave is because the Republicans don't stand for anything. They don't have anything to offer. There's no opposition. They're not inspiring new voters to come out, because time and time again, Republican voters have come out and handed the keys to the kingdom over to the Republicans, and the Republicans have never lived up to their promise of shrinking government, making government less intrusive, lowering the tax burden across the board. And even when they've come in and cut taxes, they haven't shrunk the government. There have not been commensurate reductions in spending, and therefore what? Well, that's not a tax reduction. That's a tax deferral that gets paid via inflation. Now we've got Biden as president, and I think a lot of people are smart enough to recognize that Joe Biden is not responsible in and of himself for inflation. We know how much money Donald Trump spent during the pandemic, and if you go back and watch my videos from the beginning of the pandemic, I talk about the destruction of the dollar back then, and I asked those questions back then. Why is Trump spending all this money? Why are we dumping all this money into the economy that's shut down and calling it stimulus? It didn't make sense then. And we're getting a lot of that impact. A lot of the inflation that we're feeling is the impact from those bad economic decisions under Donald Trump. So I don't think Republicans should trust, Republican voters shouldn't trust Republican politicians to reverse course when it comes to a bad economy. So while they'll vote and they'll show up, and the diehards who vote the straight ticket will keep coming and they'll keep voting the straight ticket, at the end of the day, Republicans aren't inspiring new voters to show up and cast their ballot. And as a result, Democrats are winning. And that's it. It's really that simple. Not only that, but Democrats have something to run on. And you don't have to agree with it. I personally don't agree with what the Democrats are running on. But they're running on systemic racism, and they're running on equality, and they're running on trans rights, and they're running on abortion access. Thank you, Republicans. You handed that one to them. They're running on these things. They have things to run on. They have things to say, we are for these things. And the Republicans don't have anything like that. The Republicans weren't, and it's here. If the Republicans aren't cowards. I was going to say if the Republicans weren't cowards, but the Republicans aren't cowards. A real Republican, a real conservative's primary mission should be to shrink the size of government, to surrender power from government back to the people. That should be their mission. But there's no money in that. You don't get money by increasing competition and reducing government protections for corporations. You get money by regulating the economy and selling protection to billionaire corporate owners. And if the Republicans can't come in and promise they're going to shrink the size of the government, because at the end of the day, the people who are hiring our politicians, both Democrat and Republican, don't want a smaller government. They want big government. They want regulation. That's what they want, because that is beneficial to them. That maintains the status quo. And if you're a multi-billion-dollar corporation or a multi-billionaire, then you want to protect the status quo because it's done pretty darn well for you. So that's why you didn't get a red wave. That's the answer to the question. There's not a mystery here. It's nothing underhanded that the Democrats did. It's that you have two parties that are wholly owned by corporate America and by billionaires. And at the end of the day, at least one party has something they can run on, and they're not just running against stuff. So that's why you're not going to get a red wave, or that's why you didn't get a red wave. That's why you're not going to get a red. That's why, look, honestly, I don't know that DeSantis beats Biden in 2024 if he runs. I don't know that Trump beats him. I think DeSantis is young enough and well-spoken enough, and I think he did things right in Florida that he may have a chance of beating Biden. Trump may actually lose to Biden again, because I also think the Republican Party, a lot of mainstream Republicans are just tired of it. They don't want him around. And that's why these MAGA Republicans who ran across the country lost. And so now we're going to get into the articles. And stay with me here because this is good stuff. We're going to get into these articles, and we should all be very happy that the red wave didn't materialize, because from what I've been hearing on the news is if we had had a red wave, we would have fallen under the worst fascist, most totalitarian, authoritarian government you've seen since 1930s Germany. I mean, this thing was going to be a disaster. It could literally have been the end of American democracy and cast us into a civil war. That's how dangerous these candidates on the Republican side were. They were so dangerous that the risk of them getting elected could literally destroy America. That's what you've been hearing on all the news channels. So I do have a question for my Democrat friends out there, because I think this is kind of important. Let's take a peek here at the Democrats boosting MAGA candidates may actually pay off. So let's go through this article really quick. This is only going to take. Democrats have played a risky game this election season, meddling in a number of GOP primary races across the country in hopes of bettering their odds of winning next week's elections. Newsweek previously reported that Democrats had spent at least $43,885,000 in 6 states to boost far-right election deniers who were running against more moderate Republicans. Of the GOP candidates that Democrats funneled money toward, more than half won their primaries and will be on the ballot Tuesday. All 6 of those candidates are also projected to lose their races. If the Democrats cared about this country, that wouldn't be a headline. How dangerous were these people? How dangerous? You go back and watch the news stories. How dangerous were these people? And the Democrats put them in a position to take power, intentionally put those people, MAGA Republicans, who are going to be authoritarian and who are going to create a civil war and all the horrible things that were going to happen. We're in a position to take power in this country because the Democrats wanted to win so badly that they were willing to risk letting those people come to power. You think I'm crazy? You think I'm wrong about this? That's fine. Let's take a look at this article. This is from, and I honestly, I don't read Newsweek enough to know if these people are right-leaning or left-leaning. So I'm sorry. But how about Salon? I don't think Salon is a left-leaning bit, right? Or right-leaning, I mean. How the Hillary campaign deliberately elevated Donald Trump with its Pied Piper strategy. In the self-described Pied Piper strategy, the Clinton campaign purposely proposed intentionally cultivating extreme right-wing presidential candidates, hoping to turn them into the new mainstream of the Republican Party in order to increase Clinton's chances of winning. The Clintons created MAGA. The Clintons created Trump. If you want to talk about far-right extremism in this country, that's fine. If you want to say, well, the Republicans voted for it, that's fine. But it was created, it was brought forward, it was given power, it was given a seat at the table. It became mainstream Republican thought because that's what the Democrats wanted. Because, yeah, it sucked for you guys that Trump was president for 4 years and boy, you literally called him the next Hitler and all those terrible things. But it was worth putting him in power because it makes it easier to win elections in the future. If you want to know everything that's wrong with American politics, that's it. The Democrats don't care anymore about racism or totalitarianism or abortion rights or any of the things that they claim are important to them. They don't care about that any more than the Republicans do. Because if they hadn't elevated these voices, maybe Roe versus Wade doesn't get... Look, maybe Trump doesn't win. Maybe a more moderate Republican wins who appoints a more moderate court who doesn't overturn Roe versus Wade. The Democrats didn't care about any of that stuff. They cared about winning. They cared about winning. And that's why they did what they did. And they elevated these voices and they put them in a position of power. You can blame Republicans for voting for them, and Republicans shoulder the responsibility that they did vote for them, but they're not going to vote for Democrats. And the Democrats had to know that there was a risk. And let me tell you something else. Last thing, and then we're done. The Democrats should want, if you care about the country, if you really care about the welfare of the United States of America as a whole and its constituents, all of them, or its citizens, all of them, if you care about all of that, then what you want is the best possible competition. You want the best candidates from both sides to be running. You want the best. You want the best facing the best. Because even if you don't like Republicans and even if you don't like Democrats, I'd rather have thoughtful, intelligent, open-minded, and people critical thinking, people who are willing to compromise, people who are willing to work to get things done, people who understand the impacts of their economic programs. Those are the people I want getting elected to office. And we're in a race to the bottom with the worst possible candidates filling out the ballot on both sides. And it's amazing to me that it's super obvious and almost something that the Democrats are borderline bragging about, elevating people into positions where they could potentially take power, while at the same time saying that these people are literally dangerous and a threat to our actual democracy. I want you to take that thought with you, and I thank you for stopping by. Please share the content. Please subscribe. I've got announcements coming this Sunday. It's big stuff. Big stuff. Huge. It's going to be huge. I got stuff I'm going to talk about this Sunday that I think is going to excite some people. It has to be some because there's not a ton of, subscribers here. But turn on your notifications, subscribe to the channel, share the content if you can, and I will see you guys on Sunday. Maybe sooner.